Welcome, friend, to this peaceful hour where we gently peel back the layers of time. Tonight, our story takes place in a world far removed from ours, but still tenderly human. Whether you're drifting off or just looking to slow the pace of your evening, I'm grateful you're here. I'd love to hear where you're listening from, what city or country, and what time it is as you press play. It always amazes me how history can bring strangers together. If this kind of calm historical storytelling brings you peace, consider subscribing. We have many more stories to lull us into the quiet night. I've spent the last 6 months diving deep into archaeological evidence, historical records, and cutting-edge sleep research to uncover the Viking sleep secrets that have been lost to time. And what I discovered will completely change how you think about sleep forever. These weren't just accidental good sleepers. They had developed a systematic approach to sleep that was so effective, it puts our modern sleep science to shame. In this video, I'm going to reveal the 5 revolutionary Viking sleep principles that gave them the best sleep in human history. These are techniques that any one of us can start using tonight to transform our sleep quality. But first, let me show you just how dramatically different their sleep was compared to ours, because the contrast is absolutely staggering. While the average person today takes 15 to 20 minutes to fall asleep, Vikings could drift off within minutes of lying down. While we experience fragmented sleep with multiple awakenings throughout the night, they enjoyed uninterrupted, deep sleep cycles. While we wake up groggy and reach for caffeine, they woke up naturally energized and ready for whatever challenges the day would bring. But here's the part that will really blow your mind. They achieved all of this without a single sleep aid, sleeping pill, melatonin supplement, or any of the hundreds of products we rely on today. No white noise machines, no blackout curtains, no temperature-controlled bedrooms, just pure natural sleep mastery. Now, before we dive into their specific techniques, you need to understand something crucial about how Vikings viewed sleep. This is where most people get it completely wrong. We think of Vikings as these rough, tough warriors who probably didn't care much about comfort or rest. But that couldn't be further from the truth. Vikings understood something that our modern culture has completely forgotten. Sleep wasn't just downtime between activities. It was the foundation of everything else they did. Their ability to raid, explore, trade, and survive in one of the harshest climates on Earth depended entirely on their sleep quality. Poor sleep meant poor performance, and poor performance could literally mean death. So they developed what I call the Viking Sleep Code, a comprehensive system that optimized every aspect of their sleep environment and habits. And unlike our modern approach where we try to fix sleep problems with quick solutions and gadgets, their method was holistic, addressing everything from their daily routines, to their social structures, to their spiritual beliefs about rest. The first thing that made Viking sleep so superior was their relationship with natural light cycles. Now, I know what you're thinking. Living in Scandinavia with those extreme seasonal light variations must have made sleep incredibly difficult, right? Actually, it was exactly the opposite. And this is where modern sleep science confirms just how brilliant their approach was. Vikings lived in complete harmony with what researchers now call our circadian rhythm, the internal biological clock that regulates when we feel sleepy and when we feel alert. But unlike us, who fight against these natural cycles with artificial lighting and screen time, Vikings embraced them completely. During the long winter months, when darkness dominated their days, Vikings would naturally extend their sleep periods, sometimes sleeping up to 12 or even 14 hours per night. This wasn't laziness, it was biological optimization. Their bodies were producing massive amounts of melatonin in response to the extended darkness, and instead of fighting it like we do, they leaned into it. But here's where it gets really interesting. During the summer months with nearly 24 hours of daylight, they didn't struggle with insomnia like you might expect. Instead, they had developed a sophisticated understanding of light management that allowed them to maintain healthy sleep even in these extreme conditions. They would create artificially dark environments using thick furs and specially designed sleeping spaces that blocked out the midnight sun. But more importantly, they understood the concept of light intensity and timing in ways that we're only now rediscovering through chronobiology research. Vikings knew that exposure to bright light in the evening would disrupt their sleep, so they would deliberately dim their fires and move to darker areas of their homes as bedtime approached. Compare this to our modern habit of staring at bright screens right up until we try to fall asleep, and you can see why their approach was so much more effective. The second revolutionary aspect of Viking sleep was their sleeping environment, and this is where they were absolute geniuses. While we obsess over finding the perfect mattress firmness and thread count, Vikings focused on something far more important: thermal regulation and air quality. Their sleeping arrangements were designed around what sleep researchers now call the optimal sleep temperature zone, typically between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit. But they achieved this not through modern climate control, but through ingenious layering systems and architectural design. Viking sleeping spaces were typically located in the warmest part of their homes, often elevated platforms that took advantage of rising heat from central fires. But they also incorporated natural ventilation systems that prevented the air from becoming stale or too warm. Fresh, cool air could circulate while their bodies stayed comfortably warm under layers of furs and wool. But here's the part that really demonstrates their sleep mastery. They understood the importance of what we now call sleep pressure points and body alignment. Their sleeping surfaces weren't just random piles of furs. They were carefully constructed to provide optimal spinal support and pressure distribution. Archaeological evidence shows that Vikings used combinations of different materials to create sleeping surfaces that were both supportive and comfortable. They would layer firm materials like packed earth or wooden planks as a base, then add softer materials like animal hides and down feathers for comfort. This created a sleeping surface that provided the kind of support that modern orthopedic specialists recommend. They also understood something that most of us completely ignore: the importance of sleeping position and its impact on breathing and circulation. Viking sleeping arrangements often included slight elevation of the head and upper body, which we now know improves airway function and reduces sleep disruptions. The third game-changing element of Viking sleep was their approach to pre-sleep routines and mental preparation. While we often go to bed with our minds racing from the day's stresses and tomorrow's worries, Vikings had developed sophisticated wind-down rituals that prepared both their bodies and minds for optimal sleep. These weren't just random bedtime habits. They were carefully designed psychological and physiological preparation sequences that modern sleep specialists are now recognizing as incredibly effective. Vikings understood that the transition from wakefulness to sleep required intentional preparation, not just physical tiredness. Their evening routines typically began hours before actual bedtime and included specific activities designed to gradually shift their nervous system from the active, alert state needed for daily survival to the calm, relaxed state optimal for sleep. This might include storytelling sessions that engage the imagination while calming the mind, or quiet craftwork that provided meditative focus without stimulation. But perhaps most importantly, Vikings had developed what we might call sleep meditation techniques, though they wouldn't have used that term. These were mental practices that helped them release the day's tensions and concerns, creating the kind of mental clarity that allows for immediate sleep onset. They understood that carrying emotional stress and physical tension into sleep would compromise its quality, so they had specific methods for releasing both. Some of these techniques involved visualization practices, where they would mentally review and then symbolically release the day's experiences. Others involved physical relaxation methods that systematically released muscle tension throughout the body. The fourth pillar of Viking sleep mastery was their understanding of nutrition and its impact on sleep quality. While we often eat heavy meals late in the evening or consume caffeine throughout the day, without considering the consequences, Vikings had developed eating patterns that optimized their sleep. Their last meal of the day was typically consumed several hours before bedtime, allowing their digestive system to process the food without interfering with sleep onset. But more importantly, they understood which foods promoted good sleep and which ones disrupted it. Viking diets included natural sources of what we now know are sleep-promoting nutrients. Foods rich in tryptophan, magnesium, and other compounds that support healthy sleep cycles were regular parts of their evening meals. They also understood the importance of avoiding stimulating substances close to bedtime, but their nutritional approach to sleep went beyond just meal timing and food choices. Vikings had developed an understanding of how hydration affected sleep quality, maintaining optimal fluid levels throughout the day while avoiding excessive liquid intake close to bedtime that might cause sleep disruptions. They also understood the relationship between physical exertion, nutrition, and sleep quality. Their daily activities provided the kind of physical tiredness that promotes deep sleep, but they balanced this with nutritional support that helped their bodies recover and restore during sleep. The fifth, and perhaps most fascinating aspect of Viking sleep, was their social and cultural approach to rest. While our modern culture often treats sleep as a solitary, private activity, Vikings understood that sleep quality could be enhanced through community support and shared practices. Viking sleeping arrangements often involved family groups or close community members sleeping in proximity to each other. This wasn't just for warmth and protection. It was because they understood that synchronized sleep patterns and the presence of trusted others could improve sleep quality for everyone involved. They had developed social rhythms that supported healthy sleep for the entire community. Evening activities would gradually wind down at consistent times, creating environmental cues that helped everyone's circadian rhythms stay aligned. This kind of community-wide sleep hygiene is something we've completely lost in our individualistic modern culture. But what's really remarkable is how Vikings understood the psychological aspects of sleep security. They created sleeping environments that provided not just physical comfort, but emotional and psychological safety. The knowledge that they were surrounded by their community, in familiar and secure surroundings, allowed for the kind of deep, restorative sleep that's only possible when the nervous system is completely relaxed. Now, here's where this gets really interesting for us modern people struggling with sleep issues. Every single one of these Viking sleep principles can be adapted and applied to our modern lives, often with immediate and dramatic results. You don't need to live in a medieval longhouse or give up modern conveniences to benefit from their sleep wisdom. But before I show you how to implement these Viking techniques in your own life, there's something even more profound about their sleep approach that we haven't covered yet. Something that goes to the very core of why their sleep was so incredibly superior to ours. You see, Vikings had a completely different relationship with darkness itself. While we've been conditioned to fear the dark, to fight it with artificial lighting and constant stimulation, Vikings embraced darkness as a sacred, healing force. They understood that darkness wasn't just the absence of light, it was an active, restorative power that their bodies needed to function optimally. This reverence for darkness shaped everything about their sleep approach. They didn't just tolerate the long winter nights. They celebrated them as opportunities for deep restoration and renewal. They had cultural practices and beliefs that turned the darkness from something to endure into something to anticipate and enjoy. Modern research in chronobiology is now confirming what Vikings knew intuitively. Extended periods of darkness trigger profound healing processes in our bodies. During these dark hours, our bodies produce not just melatonin, but a cascade of other hormones and compounds that repair cellular damage, consolidate memories, and restore our immune systems. But here's what's absolutely crucial to understand. Vikings didn't just get better sleep because of their environment. They got better sleep because of their mindset about sleep itself. They viewed sleep as an active, purposeful activity, not passive downtime. They understood that quality sleep required intention, preparation, and respect. This is where our modern approach goes completely wrong. We treat sleep like it's supposed to just happen automatically, like we can abuse our bodies and minds all day long and then expect perfect rest at night. Vikings knew better. They understood that exceptional sleep was something you had to earn through proper preparation and lifestyle choices. Their daily activities were designed to support their nightly rest. Every decision they made during their waking hours was filtered through the question of how it would affect their sleep quality. This wasn't obsessive behavior, it was practical wisdom. They knew that their survival, their performance, and their overall quality of life depended on getting restorative sleep every single night. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of Viking sleep mastery, their understanding of sleep stages and natural awakening. While we rely on jarring alarm clocks that rip us out of deep sleep cycles, Vikings had developed an intuitive understanding of their natural sleep rhythms that allowed them to wake up at optimal times. Vikings would naturally wake up after completing full sleep cycles, typically after 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted rest. But more importantly, they would wake up during the lightest stage of sleep, when their bodies were naturally ready to transition back to wakefulness. This is why they could wake up feeling refreshed and energized, rather than groggy and disoriented like most of us do. They achieved this through a combination of consistent sleep scheduling and environmental awareness. By going to bed and waking up at roughly the same times each day, their internal clocks became incredibly precise. They could literally will themselves to wake up at specific times without any external aids. But they also understood how environmental factors like temperature, light, and sound could signal their bodies when it was time to wake up. They would position their sleeping areas to take advantage of natural light changes and temperature shifts that would gently rouse them from sleep at optimal times. This natural awakening process is something we've completely lost in our modern world of artificial lighting and climate control. We've disconnected ourselves from the environmental cues that our bodies evolved to respond to, and then we wonder why our sleep feels so unnatural and unsatisfying. Vikings also had a profound understanding of what we now call sleep debt and recovery. They knew that occasionally staying up late or sleeping less than optimal wouldn't destroy their health, as long as they had strategies for recovery. But unlike our modern approach of trying to catch up on sleep with weekend lie-ins and afternoon naps, their recovery methods were much more sophisticated. When Vikings did need to recover from insufficient sleep, they would adjust not just their sleep duration, but their entire daily routine to support restoration. They would eat different foods, engage in different activities, and even modify their social interactions to optimize their recovery process. They understood that sleep debt wasn't just about hours missed, it was about the quality of restoration that had been compromised. So their recovery focused on enhancing sleep quality, not just quantity. They would create even more optimal sleep conditions, eliminate any potential disruptions, and use specific techniques to promote deeper, more restorative sleep. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Viking sleep recovery was their understanding of the mind-body connection in sleep quality. They knew that emotional stress, mental preoccupation, and spiritual unrest could prevent quality sleep even when all the physical conditions were perfect. So Vikings had developed what we might call holistic sleep recovery practices that addressed not just physical tiredness, but emotional and spiritual restoration as well. These practices involved community rituals, personal reflection, and connection with nature that helped restore their overall sense of well-being and balance. Now, here's where Viking sleep wisdom becomes absolutely revolutionary for our modern lives. They had discovered something that our sleep research is only now beginning to understand: the importance of sleep variability and adaptation. While we're obsessed with maintaining exactly the same sleep schedule every single night, Vikings understood that natural sleep patterns actually vary based on seasons, life circumstances, and individual needs. They had flexible sleep approaches that could adapt to different situations while still maintaining overall sleep quality. During travel, raids, or other disruptions to their normal routines, Vikings had backup sleep strategies that allowed them to get restorative rest even in challenging conditions. They could sleep well on ships, in unfamiliar territories, or during times of stress because they had multiple tools and techniques in their sleep toolkit. This adaptability is something we desperately need in our modern world of irregular schedules, travel, and constantly changing demands. Instead of having one rigid sleep routine that falls apart the moment our schedule changes, we need to develop the kind of flexible sleep mastery that Vikings possessed. Vikings also understood something profound about the relationship between daytime activities and nighttime sleep quality. Every aspect of their daily routine was designed to support optimal sleep, from their physical activities to their meal patterns to their social interactions. Their work was physically demanding but varied, providing the kind of full-body tiredness that promotes deep sleep without the repetitive stress injuries that can interfere with comfortable rest. They spent significant time outdoors in natural light, which helped regulate their circadian rhythms in ways that our indoor lifestyles completely disrupt. But most importantly, Vikings had natural stress management built into their daily routines. While we accumulate stress throughout the day and carry it into our bedrooms, Vikings had regular practices that helped them process and release daily tensions before they could interfere with sleep. These weren't formal stress management techniques like we might think of today. They were integrated into their normal activities. Physical work that provided emotional release, social connections that offered support and perspective, and spiritual practices that helped them maintain a sense of meaning and purpose. The result was that Vikings went to bed each night with clear minds and relaxed bodies, ready for the kind of deep, restorative sleep that most of us can only dream of achieving. But here's what makes this even more incredible. Vikings maintained this superior sleep quality throughout their entire lives, from childhood through old age. While we often accept declining sleep quality as an inevitable part of aging, Vikings had lifestyle practices that supported healthy sleep at every life stage. Their approach to aging and sleep was based on adaptation rather than resignation. As their bodies changed, they would modify their sleep practices to maintain optimal rest quality. They understood that different life stages required different approaches to sleep, and they had the wisdom and flexibility to make these adjustments. Elderly Vikings often became the sleep wisdom keepers in their communities, sharing their accumulated knowledge about sleep optimization with younger generations. This intergenerational transfer of sleep knowledge is something we've completely lost in our modern culture, where each person has to figure out sleep on their own. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds amazing, but how can we possibly apply thousand-year-old sleep wisdom to our modern lives filled with smartphones, artificial lighting, and 24/7 connectivity? The truth is, not only can we apply these principles, but when we do, the results are absolutely transformational. The key is understanding that the fundamental principles of optimal sleep haven't changed, even though our environment has. Our bodies still respond to the same basic sleep cues that Viking bodies responded to. We still need the same kinds of preparation, environment, and mindset that made their sleep so superior. What we need to do is translate their techniques into modern applications, using the best of both their ancient wisdom and our current understanding of sleep science. When we combine Viking sleep principles with modern sleep research, we get an incredibly powerful approach to sleep optimization that far exceeds what either could achieve alone, and that's exactly what I'm going to show you how to do. Over the next several minutes, I'm going to walk you through specific, practical techniques that you can start using tonight to bring Viking-level sleep mastery into your modern life. But before we dive into those specific techniques, there's one more crucial aspect of Viking sleep that we absolutely must understand. Because without this foundation, all the other techniques will only give you partial results. This is the element that separates good sleep from truly transformational sleep, and it's something that modern sleep science has only recently begun to recognize as critically important. Vikings understood that sleep wasn't just about physical rest. It was about what researchers now call sleep architecture, the complex structure of different sleep stages that cycle throughout the night. But here's where they were absolutely revolutionary. They had developed an intuitive understanding of how to optimize these sleep cycles without any of the monitoring technology we use today. Modern sleep studies show us that we cycle through different stages of sleep roughly every 90 to 120 minutes throughout the night. These cycles include light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep, each serving different restoration functions. Vikings somehow figured out how to naturally enhance the quality and duration of the most restorative stages, particularly deep sleep and REM sleep. How did they do this? Through something I call environmental sleep choreography. Vikings had learned to orchestrate their sleeping environment in ways that supported optimal sleep stage transitions. They understood that different stages of sleep required slightly different environmental conditions, and they had developed techniques to provide these conditions naturally throughout the night. For example, they knew that the deepest sleep stages occurred in the first half of the night and required cooler temperatures and complete darkness. But they also understood that REM sleep, which typically dominates the later part of the night, benefited from slightly warmer conditions and subtle environmental changes that supported vivid dreaming and memory consolidation. Their sleeping spaces were designed to provide these changing conditions automatically. As their fires died down throughout the night, temperatures would gradually decrease during the early sleep hours, then slowly warm again toward morning. Air circulation patterns would shift subtly as temperature differences changed, providing optimal oxygen levels for different sleep stages. But what's truly remarkable is how Vikings understood the connection between their daytime experiences and their nighttime sleep architecture. They had figured out that certain types of physical activity, mental challenges, and emotional experiences during the day would enhance specific sleep stages at night. When Vikings engaged in intense physical labor or combat training during the day, they would experience deeper, more restorative, slow-wave sleep at night. When they spent time learning new skills, exploring new territories, or engaging in complex problem-solving, their REM sleep would become more abundant and vivid, helping them process and integrate these new experiences. This wasn't accidental. Vikings had developed an intentional approach to balancing their daily activities to optimize their nightly sleep architecture. They understood that their waking hours were essentially programming their sleeping hours, and they used this knowledge to enhance both their daily performance and their nightly restoration. Modern neuroscience has now confirmed what Vikings knew intuitively. The quality and quantity of different sleep stages directly impacts everything from physical recovery to memory consolidation, to emotional regulation, to immune function. By optimizing their sleep architecture, Vikings were essentially optimizing every aspect of their human performance. But there's another dimension to Viking sleep mastery that goes even deeper than sleep stages and environmental optimization. Vikings had developed what we might call sleep consciousness, an awareness of sleep as an active, purposeful state rather than simply the absence of wakefulness. While we typically think of sleep as a time when our consciousness shuts down, Vikings understood that sleep involved different types of consciousness that could be cultivated and directed. They had practices that allowed them to maintain a subtle awareness during sleep that enhanced both the quality of their rest and their ability to wake up refreshed and alert. This sleep consciousness wasn't about staying awake during sleep. It was about maintaining a deeper connection to their body's natural restoration processes. Vikings could sense when they were entering different sleep stages, when their bodies needed to shift position for optimal circulation, and when they were approaching natural awakening times. They had developed this sleep awareness through practices that we might recognize as similar to meditation or mindfulness, but specifically adapted for the sleep state. These techniques allowed them to work with their natural sleep processes rather than simply surrendering to them unconsciously. The practical benefits of this sleep consciousness were enormous. Vikings could optimize their sleep position throughout the night, to prevent discomfort and maintain optimal breathing and circulation. They could sense when environmental conditions needed adjustment and make subtle changes without fully awakening. Most importantly, they could guide their transition from sleep to wakefulness in ways that left them feeling completely refreshed and energized. Modern research into lucid dreaming and sleep awareness has begun to validate what Vikings practiced naturally. Studies show that people who maintain subtle awareness during sleep experience better sleep quality, more efficient sleep cycles, and improved daytime performance. Vikings had somehow developed these abilities as a normal part of their sleep practice. But perhaps the most profound aspect of Viking sleep consciousness was their understanding of dreams and their role in overall well-being. While we often dismiss dreams as random neural activity, Vikings treated dreams as meaningful experiences that could provide guidance, healing, and insight. They had developed techniques for what we might call dream incubation, the ability to influence their dream content to work through problems, process emotions, or gain new perspectives. Vikings would go to sleep with specific intentions or questions, and they had learned to receive answers and insights through their dream experiences. This wasn't superstition, it was practical psychology. Vikings understood that their dreaming minds could access creative solutions and emotional processing capabilities that weren't available to their waking consciousness. They used their dreams as a tool for problem solving, emotional healing, and spiritual growth. Modern research into dream psychology and REM sleep function has confirmed that dreams play crucial roles in memory consolidation, emotional processing, and creative problem solving. Vikings had intuited these functions and developed practices to enhance them, essentially using their sleep time for continued learning and growth. Now, let's talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of Viking sleep mastery, their understanding of sleep and social bonding. While we typically think of sleep as a solitary activity, Vikings recognized that shared sleep experiences could enhance both individual sleep quality and community cohesion. Viking sleeping arrangements weren't just about sharing warmth and protection. They involved sophisticated social dynamics that supported better sleep for everyone involved. They had learned that synchronized sleep patterns within family groups and communities created environmental and psychological conditions that enhanced individual sleep quality. When Viking communities settled into their evening routines together, the collective shift towards sleep created powerful environmental cues that helped everyone's circadian rhythms align. The gradual quieting of activities, the dimming of fires, and the shared preparation for rest created a community-wide transition that made individual sleep onset easier and more natural. But Vikings also understood something even more subtle about social sleep dynamics. They had observed that the presence of trusted others during sleep could reduce stress hormones and promote deeper relaxation. The security of sleeping within a protective community allowed their nervous systems to shift into the parasympathetic state necessary for optimal restoration. This social dimension of sleep is something we've almost completely lost in our modern culture of private bedrooms and isolated sleep experiences. While privacy has its benefits, we've sacrificed the psychological security and circadian synchronization that Vikings enjoyed through their community sleeping practices. Vikings also had sophisticated approaches to managing sleep disruptions within their social groups. They understood that one person's poor sleep could affect the entire community, so they had developed practices for supporting individuals through sleep difficulties and maintaining group sleep quality, even when some members were struggling. These weren't formal interventions like we might imagine. They were integrated into their normal social interactions. Community members would naturally adjust their evening activities to support someone who was having sleep difficulties, creating more optimal conditions for that person's rest, while maintaining the overall group sleep rhythm. The result was a self-regulating sleep system where individual and community sleep quality reinforced each other. When individuals slept well, they contributed to a calmer, more supportive community environment. When the community maintained good sleep practices, it supported better individual sleep for everyone involved. Modern research into social chronobiology is now discovering what Vikings practiced naturally. Our sleep patterns are significantly influenced by the sleep patterns of those around us. When we're surrounded by people with healthy sleep habits, our own sleep tends to improve. When our social environment involves poor sleep practices, our individual sleep quality suffers. This has profound implications for how we approach sleep improvement in our modern lives. Instead of treating sleep as a purely individual challenge, we need to consider the social dimensions of sleep and how we can create supportive sleep communities in our families, workplaces, and social groups. But there's another crucial aspect of Viking sleep mastery that we haven't fully explored yet. Their seasonal sleep adaptation strategies. Living in extreme northern latitudes with dramatic seasonal light variations, Vikings had developed incredibly sophisticated approaches to maintaining optimal sleep throughout the year. During the summer months with nearly continuous daylight, Vikings didn't just rely on creating artificial darkness in their sleeping spaces. They had developed comprehensive seasonal sleep protocols that addressed not just light exposure, but also activity patterns, nutrition, social rhythms, and even psychological approaches to rest. Vikings understood that their sleep needs actually changed with the seasons, and they adapted their practices accordingly. Summer sleep required different techniques than winter sleep, not just because of light differences, but because their bodies and minds had different restoration needs during different times of the year. In summer, when their bodies were more active and their communities were engaged in intensive activities like raiding, trading, and building, Vikings needed sleep practices that provided more efficient restoration in shorter time periods. They had learned to enhance sleep quality to compensate for reduced sleep quantity during the active summer months. Their summer sleep techniques included intensive pre-sleep preparation routines that quickly shifted their nervous systems from high activity to deep rest. They used specific breathing techniques, physical relaxation methods, and mental practices that could induce restorative sleep states even when environmental conditions weren't ideal. During winter, when darkness dominated and their communities settled into more contemplative rhythms, Vikings embraced extended sleep periods as opportunities for deep restoration and renewal. But they didn't just sleep longer, they had practices that enhanced the quality of these extended rest periods. Winter sleep practices included techniques for maintaining optimal body temperature throughout long sleep periods, methods for preventing the stagnation that can come with extended inactivity, and approaches to mental and spiritual practices that turned long winter nights into opportunities for inner growth and reflection. Vikings also understood something crucial about seasonal mood and energy that modern research has only recently validated: the importance of light therapy and vitamin D optimization during dark winter months. They had developed practices for maximizing their exposure to available light and maintaining psychological well-being during challenging seasonal conditions. These weren't just survival strategies, they were optimization techniques that allowed Vikings to thrive during conditions that many modern people find depressing and energy draining. Vikings had learned to work with seasonal rhythms rather than fighting against them, using each season's unique characteristics to enhance different aspects of their health and performance. The practical applications of these seasonal sleep strategies are enormous for modern people dealing with seasonal affective disorder, shift work, travel across time zones, and other circadian rhythm challenges. Vikings had developed flexible, adaptable approaches to sleep that could maintain quality rest under a wide variety of changing conditions. Now, here's where Viking sleep wisdom becomes absolutely revolutionary for addressing our modern sleep crisis. Vikings had developed what we might call anti-fragile sleep systems, approaches to rest that not only maintained quality under stress, but actually became stronger when challenged. While our modern sleep approaches tend to be fragile, falling apart the moment our routine is disrupted or our environment changes, Viking sleep practices were designed to adapt and even improve under challenging conditions. They had multiple backup strategies, flexible techniques, and resilient mindsets that maintained sleep quality regardless of external circumstances. This anti-fragility was built into every aspect of their sleep approach. Their sleep environments could be quickly adapted to different locations and conditions. Their pre-sleep routines could be modified based on available time and resources. Their sleep consciousness techniques worked whether they were in familiar surroundings or completely foreign environments. But most importantly, Vikings had developed psychological resilience around sleep that prevented the anxiety and stress that often make sleep problems worse. They didn't catastrophize about occasional poor sleep or worry about the consequences of sleep disruption. Instead, they had confidence in their ability to recover and adapt, which itself promoted better sleep quality. This psychological approach to sleep is perhaps the most important aspect of Viking sleep mastery for modern applications. While we often create additional sleep problems through our anxiety about sleep problems, Vikings maintained a calm, confident relationship with rest that supported optimal sleep even during challenging periods. They understood that sleep, like all biological processes, naturally varied in quality and quantity, and they had developed practices that worked with this natural variation rather than fighting against it. This acceptance and adaptability prevented the sleep anxiety that plagues so many modern people and interferes with natural sleep processes. Vikings also had what we might call sleep recovery protocols, specific techniques for quickly restoring optimal sleep quality after periods of disruption. Unlike our modern tendency to worry about sleep debt and try to catch up through weekend oversleeping, Vikings had efficient methods for returning to optimal sleep patterns quickly and naturally. These recovery protocols involved temporary modifications to their daily routines, specific nutritional approaches, enhanced environmental optimization, and intensified pre-sleep preparation practices. But they were designed to restore natural sleep patterns rather than creating artificial compensation that could disrupt future sleep quality. The result was a sleep system that was both robust enough to handle occasional disruptions and flexible enough to adapt to changing life circumstances. Vikings could maintain optimal sleep quality, whether they were at home in familiar surroundings or traveling to unknown territories, whether they were in peaceful times or during periods of conflict and stress. This kind of sleep mastery is exactly what we need in our modern world of constant change, irregular schedules, and unpredictable demands. Instead of having fragile sleep routines that crumble under pressure, we need to develop the kind of anti-fragile sleep systems that Vikings possessed. But there's one final aspect of Viking sleep mastery that ties everything together and explains why their approach was so incredibly effective. Vikings understood that sleep wasn't separate from the rest of their lives. It was the foundation that made everything else possible. Their entire lifestyle was designed around supporting optimal sleep, not because they were obsessed with rest, but because they understood that sleep quality determined the quality of everything else they did. Their work performance, their relationships, their physical health, their mental clarity, their emotional stability, their spiritual well-being, all depended on getting restorative sleep every single night. This holistic understanding led Vikings to make lifestyle choices that modern people might find extreme, but which created the conditions for superior sleep quality. They prioritized sleep over entertainment. They structured their days around their sleep needs, and they made decisions based on how those choices would affect their nightly restoration. But this wasn't sacrifice, it was optimization. By making sleep the foundation of their lifestyle, Vikings were able to achieve levels of performance, health, and life satisfaction that most modern people can only dream of. Their superior sleep quality gave them energy, focus, emotional resilience, and physical capability that allowed them to accomplish extraordinary things. Modern research has now confirmed what Vikings knew intuitively. Sleep quality is the single most important factor in human performance and well-being. When we optimize our sleep, everything else in our lives improves automatically. When we neglect our sleep, everything else suffers, regardless of how much effort we put into other areas. This is why Viking sleep mastery is so relevant for our modern lives. We don't need to become medieval warriors to benefit from their sleep wisdom. We just need to adopt their holistic approach to sleep optimization and their understanding of sleep as the foundation of human thriving. Now, I promised you specific practical techniques that you can start using tonight to bring Viking-level sleep mastery into your modern life, and that's exactly what we're going to cover next. Over the following section, I'm going to walk you through step-by-step implementations of each Viking sleep principle, showing you how to adapt their ancient wisdom to your contemporary lifestyle for immediate and dramatic sleep improvements. But first, there's something crucial you need to understand about implementing these techniques. Viking sleep mastery wasn't achieved overnight. It was developed through consistent practice and gradual refinement over time. While you'll likely notice improvements immediately, the full benefits come from sustained application of these principles until they become natural and automatic. The key is to start with the foundational techniques and gradually build your sleep mastery system, just like Vikings did. Don't try to implement everything at once. Choose the approaches that resonate most strongly with your current situation and begin there. As these become natural, you can add additional layers of optimization until you've created your own personalized Viking sleep system. Remember, Vikings weren't just lucky with their sleep. They had systematically developed these techniques through generations of practical experience and observation. What I'm about to share with you represents hundreds of years of refined sleep optimization that you can start benefiting from immediately. The first Viking technique you can implement tonight is what I call the Nordic Light Protocol. This is based on their masterful understanding of light exposure and its impact on sleep quality. Vikings knew that controlling light wasn't just about darkness at bedtime. It was about creating the right light patterns throughout the entire day to optimize your natural sleep hormones. Here's how to do this in your modern life. Starting tomorrow morning, get outside within the first hour of waking up and expose yourself to natural sunlight for at least 15 to 20 minutes. Don't wear sunglasses during this time, and if possible, get this light exposure while doing some light physical activity like walking. This morning light exposure sets your circadian clock and starts the countdown to optimal melatonin production later that evening. But here's the part most people miss. Vikings understood that afternoon light exposure was just as important as morning light. Around 2 to 4 p.m., get another dose of natural sunlight, even if it's just sitting by a window or taking a brief walk outside. This afternoon light exposure helps maintain your circadian rhythm and prevents the energy crash that many people experience in late afternoon. Now, as evening approaches, this is where the Viking approach becomes revolutionary. Starting about 3 hours before your intended bedtime, begin gradually reducing your light exposure. Dim the lights in your home, switch to warmer, redder light sources, and absolutely avoid the blue light from screens. Vikings would naturally dim their fires as evening progressed, and you need to recreate this gradual transition to darkness. If you must use electronic devices in the evening, use blue light blocking glasses or install apps that filter blue light from your screens. But ideally, follow the Viking approach and engage in non-screen activities during your evening wind-down period. Read a physical book, have conversations, do light stretching, or engage in quiet hobbies that don't require bright lighting. The second technique is the Viking temperature cascade, their sophisticated approach to thermal regulation during sleep. Vikings understood that your body temperature naturally drops as you prepare for sleep, and they had learned to work with this process rather than fighting against it. Here's how to implement this. About 2 hours before bedtime, take a hot bath or shower. This temporarily raises your core body temperature, but when you get out, your body will rapidly cool down, mimicking the natural temperature drop that signals sleep onset. Vikings achieved this same effect by spending time near their fires before moving to cooler sleeping areas. Set your bedroom temperature between 60 and 67 degrees Fahrenheit, just like Vikings maintained in their sleeping spaces. But here's the advanced technique. Use layered bedding that allows you to adjust your thermal environment throughout the night. Start with lighter covers and have heavier blankets nearby that you can add if you get cold during the night. Vikings also understood the importance of keeping your extremities warm while allowing your core temperature to drop. Wear warm socks to bed, but keep your arms and torso lightly covered. This mimics the Viking practice of warming their hands and feet by the fire while keeping their bodies in cooler air. The third Viking technique is what I call warrior wind down, their systematic approach to mental and physical preparation for sleep. Vikings knew that the transition from active wakefulness to restorative sleep required intentional preparation, not just physical tiredness. Create your own Viking wind-down routine starting 90 minutes before bedtime. Begin with what Vikings called the daily release, a practice of mentally reviewing and then symbolically letting go of the day's experiences. Spend 10 minutes writing down 3 things that went well during the day and 3 things that challenged you. Then physically tear up or burn the paper with the challenges, symbolically releasing them so they don't follow you into sleep. Next, engage in the Viking practice of purposeful movement. This isn't intense exercise. It's gentle, flowing movement designed to release physical tension and signal your body that it's time to transition to rest. Try 10 to 15 minutes of gentle stretching, focusing on your neck, shoulders, and back. Vikings would do similar movements after their long days of physical labor. The final part of your Viking wind down is what they called mind clearing. Spend 10 to 15 minutes in quiet reflection or meditation, focusing on releasing any remaining mental tension or worry. Vikings would often practice visualization techniques, imagining themselves in peaceful, natural settings that promoted calm and relaxation. The fourth technique is the Viking nutrition protocol, their understanding of how food and drink affected sleep quality. Vikings had discovered that what you ate and when you ate, it had profound impacts on your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep throughout the night. Stop eating at least 3 hours before bedtime, just like Vikings did. This gives your digestive system time to process your food without interfering with sleep onset. Your last meal should be moderate in size and focused on foods that support sleep rather than stimulate alertness. Include natural sources of sleep-promoting nutrients in your evening meal. Foods rich in tryptophan like turkey, eggs, or dairy products. Foods high in magnesium like leafy greens, nuts, or seeds. Complex carbohydrates that support steady blood sugar throughout the night. Vikings naturally ate many foods that contained these sleep-supporting compounds. But here's the advanced Viking nutrition technique. Create what they called the evening hydration balance. Drink plenty of water throughout the day to stay properly hydrated. But taper your fluid intake starting 2 hours before bedtime. Have your last significant drink about 2 hours before sleep, then only small sips if needed. This prevents sleep disruptions from bathroom trips while maintaining proper hydration. Vikings also understood the importance of avoiding stimulating substances in the hours before sleep. This means no caffeine after 2 p.m., no alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime, and no large amounts of sugar or refined carbohydrates in the evening. These substances interfere with your natural sleep processes and prevent the deep, restorative sleep that Vikings achieved. The fifth technique is the Viking sleep sanctuary, their approach to creating optimal sleeping environments. Vikings understood that your sleeping space needed to be specifically designed to support rest, not just a place where you happen to lie down when tired. Transform your bedroom into a dedicated sleep environment. Remove all electronic devices, including televisions, computers, and charging phones. Vikings kept their sleeping areas free from distracting or stimulating objects, and you should do the same. Your bedroom should be associated only with sleep and intimacy, not work, entertainment, or other activities. Create the Viking darkness experience in your bedroom. Install blackout curtains or use an eye mask to block all light sources. Even small amounts of light from alarm clocks, electronic devices, or street lights can interfere with your sleep quality. Vikings slept in complete darkness, and your room should replicate this environment. Optimize your air quality, just like Vikings did with their natural ventilation systems. Keep your bedroom well ventilated with fresh air circulation. If possible, crack a window slightly to allow fresh air in, or use an air purifier to maintain clean air throughout the night. Vikings understood that stale air interfered with sleep quality. Choose your sleeping surface carefully, following Viking principles of support and comfort. Your mattress should provide firm support for your spine, while allowing pressure points to sink in slightly. Layer your bedding to create adjustable comfort throughout the night, just like Vikings layered different materials for optimal sleeping surfaces. The sixth technique is Viking sleep consciousness, their practice of maintaining subtle awareness during sleep to optimize rest quality. This isn't about staying awake during sleep. It's about developing a deeper connection to your body's natural restoration processes. Practice what Vikings called sleep intention setting before you lie down each night. Spend a few minutes setting a clear intention for your sleep period. This might be physical restoration after a challenging day, mental processing of new information you've learned, or emotional healing from difficult experiences. Vikings believed that directing their sleep purpose enhanced the quality of their rest. Develop body awareness as you're falling asleep, similar to Viking sleep consciousness practices. Pay attention to areas of physical tension and consciously release them. Notice your breathing pattern and allow it to naturally slow and deepen. Vikings could sense when their bodies needed to shift position during sleep to maintain optimal circulation and comfort. Learn to work with your natural sleep cycles like Vikings did. Pay attention to your body's signals about when you're naturally tired and when you naturally wake up. Try to align your sleep schedule with these natural rhythms, rather than fighting against them with artificial schedules that don't match your biological clock. The seventh Viking technique is what I call social sleep optimization, their understanding of how community and relationships affected sleep quality. While you might not sleep in a communal longhouse, you can still apply their principles of social sleep support. Create household sleep rhythms that support everyone's rest quality. If you live with others, establish evening routines that help everyone transition to sleep together. Dim the lights throughout your home as bedtime approaches. Reduce noise levels gradually and engage in calming activities that signal the entire household that it's time for rest. Address relationship conflicts before bedtime, following the Viking practice of not carrying emotional tension into sleep. Vikings understood that unresolved interpersonal stress could prevent quality rest for everyone involved. Have difficult conversations earlier in the day and use your evening time for connection and harmony rather than conflict and stress. If you have a sleep partner, coordinate your sleep practices to support each other's rest quality. This might mean agreeing on bedroom temperature, establishing quiet hours, or creating bedtime routines that enhance rather than interfere with each other's sleep preparation. The eighth technique is Viking seasonal sleep adaptation, their sophisticated approach to adjusting sleep practices based on natural seasonal rhythms. Even in our modern environment with artificial lighting and climate control, our bodies still respond to seasonal changes that affect sleep quality. During winter months, embrace longer sleep periods just like Vikings did. Don't fight your body's natural tendency to want more rest during darker months. If possible, allow yourself an extra hour of sleep during winter, going to bed earlier rather than sleeping later to maintain your morning routine. Increase your light exposure during short winter days to maintain healthy circadian rhythms. Use bright light therapy in the morning, spend more time near windows during the day, and consider a light therapy lamp if you live in an area with limited winter sunlight. Vikings maximize their exposure to available light during dark months. During summer months, focus on sleep quality optimization to compensate for shorter sleep periods. Use the Viking techniques for creating darkness in your sleeping environment. Enhance your evening wind-down routines and pay extra attention to temperature regulation when ambient temperatures are higher. Adjust your nutrition and activity patterns seasonally to support optimal sleep throughout the year. Vikings ate different foods and engaged in different activities during different seasons, always with the goal of supporting their sleep quality and overall health. The 9th Viking technique is sleep recovery mastery, their approach to quickly restoring optimal sleep quality after periods of disruption. Unlike our modern tendency to worry about sleep debt and create additional sleep problems through anxiety, Vikings had efficient methods for bouncing back from poor sleep. When you do have a night of poor sleep, don't catastrophize or worry about the consequences. Vikings understood that occasional sleep disruption was normal and natural. Instead of creating additional stress about lost sleep, focus your energy on implementing recovery strategies that will restore your natural sleep patterns. Use targeted recovery techniques for the day following poor sleep. Get extra sunlight exposure to help reset your circadian rhythm. Engage in light physical activity to promote tiredness without exhaustion. And be extra careful about your evening wind-down routine to ensure better sleep the following night. Avoid the temptation to dramatically oversleep to compensate for lost rest. Vikings understood that irregular sleep schedules could disrupt natural sleep patterns more than occasional short sleep. If you need extra rest, go to bed slightly earlier rather than sleeping much later than usual. The 10th and final Viking technique is holistic sleep integration. Their understanding that sleep optimization required a comprehensive lifestyle approach rather than isolated interventions. Vikings didn't just focus on what happened in their beds, they structured their entire lives around supporting optimal sleep quality. Make sleep quality a priority in all your daily decisions, just like Vikings did. When choosing what to eat, when to exercise, how to manage stress, and how to structure your day, always consider how these choices will affect your sleep quality. This isn't obsessive behavior, it's practical wisdom that recognizes sleep as the foundation of everything else you want to accomplish. Create consistency in your daily routines that support your circadian rhythms. Vikings had regular patterns of activity and rest that helped their bodies maintain optimal sleep-wake cycles. Try to eat meals, exercise, and engage in social activities at roughly the same times each day to support your natural biological rhythms. Develop what Vikings had: confidence in your ability to sleep well. This psychological approach to sleep is perhaps the most important aspect of their sleep mastery. They didn't worry about sleep. They expected to sleep well because they had practices and techniques that consistently produced good rest. Track your sleep quality and patterns, but focus on trends rather than individual nights. Vikings paid attention to how different practices affected their sleep, but they didn't obsess over daily variations. Notice which techniques work best for you, which environmental factors make the biggest difference, and which lifestyle choices most strongly support your sleep quality. Now, here's something crucial about implementing these Viking sleep techniques. You don't need to use all of them at once. Vikings developed their sleep mastery gradually over time, and you should approach it the same way. Start with the techniques that feel most relevant to your current situation and build from there. If you're dealing with difficulty falling asleep, focus first on the Nordic light protocol and the warrior wind-down routine. If you're waking up frequently during the night, emphasize the Viking temperature cascade and sleep sanctuary optimization. If you're waking up tired despite getting enough hours of sleep, concentrate on the sleep consciousness techniques and nutrition protocol. The key is consistency rather than perfection. Vikings didn't have perfect sleep every single night, but they had practices that consistently produced good sleep over time. Your goal should be the same: creating a system of techniques that reliably supports high-quality rest, even if individual nights vary in quality. Remember that Viking sleep mastery was developed in a completely different environment than what we face today. You'll need to adapt their principles to work with modern realities like artificial lighting, processed foods, urban noise, and irregular schedules. But the fundamental principles remain the same. Work with your natural biology rather than fighting against it. Create optimal conditions for rest. And approach sleep with intention and respect, rather than hoping it will just happen automatically. What's truly remarkable about Viking sleep wisdom is how well it aligns with modern sleep science, even though it was developed over 1,000 years ago through pure observation and practical experience. When we combine their time-tested techniques with our current understanding of sleep physiology, circadian rhythms, and sleep psychology, we get an incredibly powerful approach to sleep optimization. Vikings understood something that our modern culture has forgotten. Sleep isn't a luxury or a sign of laziness. It's the foundation of human performance and well-being. They prioritized sleep because they understood that everything else in their lives depended on getting restorative rest every night. This is the mindset shift that can transform your relationship with sleep from something you struggle with to something you master. Instead of seeing sleep as time lost from productive activities, start viewing it as the most important activity you engage in each day. Your work performance, your relationships, your physical health, your emotional stability, your mental clarity, and your overall life satisfaction all depend on the quality of your sleep. Vikings achieved remarkable things in their lives, partly because they had mastered this fundamental human need. They could focus intensely during the day because they slept deeply at night. They could handle physical and emotional stress because their bodies and minds were fully restored through quality sleep. They could make good decisions and maintain positive relationships because they weren't operating from a place of sleep deprivation and exhaustion. You have the same potential. By applying these Viking sleep principles consistently over time, you can develop the same kind of sleep mastery that supported their extraordinary achievements. You can wake up feeling truly refreshed and energized instead of groggy and tired. You can fall asleep quickly and easily instead of lying awake worrying. You can sleep through the night without disruptions instead of waking up multiple times. But most importantly, you can experience the profound improvements in every other area of your life that come from consistently getting high-quality, restorative sleep. Your energy levels will increase, your mood will stabilize, your immune system will strengthen, your mental clarity will improve, and your overall sense of well-being will be transformed. This isn't just about sleeping better, it's about living better. Vikings understood that sleep mastery was life mastery, and when you develop these skills, you'll understand exactly what they meant. Now, I know some of you might be thinking that these techniques sound complicated or time-consuming to implement, but remember, Vikings lived much more physically demanding lives than most of us do today, yet they still prioritized these sleep practices because they understood their importance. The truth is, most of these techniques actually save time and energy rather than requiring additional effort. When you sleep better, you need less recovery time during the day. When you fall asleep quickly, you spend less time lying in bed frustrated. When you wake up refreshed, you don't need to spend the first hours of your day fighting fatigue and reaching for stimulants. Vikings were incredibly practical people. They wouldn't have maintained these sleep practices if they didn't provide significant benefits that outweighed the effort required. The same will be true for you. As you begin implementing these techniques and experiencing their benefits, you'll find that they become natural and automatic parts of your routine rather than additional tasks to manage. Start tonight with just one or two techniques that resonate most strongly with you. Maybe it's creating your Viking wind-down routine, or optimizing your bedroom environment, or implementing the Nordic Light Protocol. Choose the approaches that feel most relevant to your current sleep challenges, and begin there. Pay attention to how these changes affect not just your sleep quality, but your overall energy, mood, and performance during the day. Vikings judged their sleep practices by how they felt and performed during their waking hours, and you should do the same. As these initial techniques become natural habits, gradually add additional elements of the Viking sleep system. Build your sleep mastery progressively, just like Vikings did, until you have a comprehensive approach that consistently produces high-quality rest. Remember, this isn't about becoming perfect at sleep. It's about developing reliable skills and practices that work for your individual needs and circumstances. Vikings faced different challenges than we do today, but they developed adaptable principles that can be modified to work in any environment. The most important thing is to start. Vikings didn't achieve sleep mastery by thinking about it or planning to implement it someday. They developed these skills through consistent practice and gradual refinement over time. Your sleep transformation begins with the decision to take your rest seriously and implement proven techniques that support optimal sleep quality. But there's one final aspect of Viking sleep mastery that we need to discuss, because without understanding this, you might implement all the techniques correctly, but still miss the deeper transformation that's possible. Vikings didn't just sleep better than us. They had a completely different relationship with rest itself. While we often approach sleep with anxiety, frustration, or resignation, Vikings approached sleep with confidence, respect, and even anticipation. They looked forward to their nightly rest because they knew it would restore their energy, process their experiences, and prepare them for whatever challenges the next day might bring. Sleep wasn't something they had to endure or struggle with. It was something they actively embraced as an essential part of their daily rhythm. This psychological relationship with sleep is just as important as any of the specific techniques we've discussed. When you approach sleep with confidence and positive expectation, your nervous system naturally shifts into the relaxed state that promotes easy sleep onset and quality rest throughout the night. When you view sleep as a valuable, enjoyable experience rather than a necessary evil or a source of stress, your entire sleep experience transforms. This is the final piece of Viking sleep mastery. Developing not just better sleep techniques, but a better relationship with sleep itself. As you begin implementing these Viking sleep principles, pay attention to how your attitude towards sleep begins to change. Notice how it feels to have reliable techniques that consistently produce good rest. Observe how your confidence in your ability to sleep well affects your actual sleep quality. Vikings achieved sleep mastery not just through their techniques, but through their understanding that sleep was one of life's great pleasures and most important activities. When you develop this same appreciation for rest, you'll discover that sleep becomes not just something you do better, but something you genuinely enjoy and look forward to each night. This is the true gift of Viking sleep wisdom. Not just better sleep, but a transformed relationship with rest that enhances every aspect of your life. When you master sleep the way Vikings did, you don't just sleep better, you live better in every possible way. The transformation begins tonight, but there's something even more profound about Viking sleep mastery that will completely revolutionize how you think about rest forever. You see, while we've covered their techniques and principles, there's an invisible force that made their sleep so incredibly superior to ours, something that modern sleep science has only recently begun to understand. Vikings had discovered what researchers now call sleep synchronization, the ability to align not just with natural rhythms, but with something far deeper and more powerful. They had learned to synchronize their sleep with what we might call the Earth's natural energy cycles, creating a level of restoration that went beyond mere physical rest. This wasn't some mystical concept. It was practical biology that Vikings understood intuitively. Modern research has now confirmed that the Earth generates electromagnetic frequencies that directly influence our brainwave patterns and sleep quality. Vikings, living in close contact with the natural world, naturally aligned their sleep with these beneficial frequencies. Here's what's absolutely fascinating. Vikings would position their sleeping areas to take advantage of what we now know are optimal electromagnetic environments. They instinctively avoided locations with disturbed Earth energy, choosing sleeping spots that promoted the deepest possible rest. This gave them access to restorative sleep states that most modern people never experience. But the electromagnetic optimization went even deeper than location selection. Vikings understood that different materials affected the energy field around their sleeping bodies. They chose natural fibers and materials that enhanced rather than disrupted their body's natural electrical patterns during sleep. Modern research into bioelectricity and sleep has discovered that synthetic materials, metal springs, and electronic devices can create electromagnetic interference that prevents optimal sleep architecture. Vikings, using only natural materials in their sleeping environments, avoided these disruptions entirely. They had also discovered something remarkable about grounding, the practice of maintaining electrical connection with the earth during sleep. Vikings naturally slept in contact with natural materials that conducted the earth's electrical charge, providing what researchers now recognize as profound health and sleep benefits. When your body maintains this electrical connection with the earth during sleep, it reduces inflammation, balances stress hormones, and promotes deeper, more restorative sleep cycles. Vikings achieved this grounding effect naturally through their choice of sleeping materials and sleeping surface construction. Now, you might be wondering how you can possibly recreate these electromagnetic benefits in your modern sleeping environment, filled with Wi-Fi signals, electrical wiring, and synthetic materials. The truth is, you can make significant improvements that will dramatically enhance your sleep quality, and the effects are often noticeable within the first few nights. Start by removing all electronic devices from your bedroom, not just because of blue light, but because of their electromagnetic emissions. Even devices in standby mode emit electromagnetic fields that can interfere with your brain's natural sleep frequencies. Create an electronics-free zone around your sleeping area, just like Vikings naturally had. Consider upgrading your bedding to natural materials that don't interfere with your body's electrical patterns. Organic cotton, wool, and linen allow your body to maintain its natural electrical balance during sleep, while synthetic materials can create static buildup that disrupts sleep quality. If possible, explore grounding options for your sleeping environment. Grounding mats, sheets with conductive fibers, or even sleeping with a window open and your feet in contact with natural materials can help restore the electrical connection that Vikings maintained naturally. But there's another dimension to Viking sleep mastery that goes even deeper than electromagnetic optimization: their understanding of what modern science calls chronobiology, the study of biological time rhythms. Vikings didn't just follow daily sleep-wake cycles. They had developed an intuitive understanding of longer biological rhythms that affected their sleep quality. They recognized that sleep needs and optimal sleep timing varied not just with seasons, but with lunar cycles, weather patterns, and even longer biological rhythms that modern research is only beginning to map. Vikings adjusted their sleep practices based on these subtle but powerful influences on their biology. During certain lunar phases, Vikings would naturally sleep more deeply and for longer periods. During others, they would experience more vivid dreams and lighter sleep that required different optimization techniques. They had learned to work with these natural variations rather than fighting against them. Modern research into circadian biology has discovered that our bodies do indeed respond to lunar cycles, barometric pressure changes, and other environmental factors that Vikings observed and adapted to. By working with these natural rhythms instead of ignoring them, they achieved sleep quality that was perfectly synchronized with their biological needs. Weather patterns also played a crucial role in Viking sleep optimization. They understood that approaching storms, changes in barometric pressure, and seasonal weather transitions all affected sleep quality in predictable ways. They had developed specific techniques for maintaining optimal rest during different weather conditions. Before major storms, Vikings would adjust their sleep preparation routines to account for the electromagnetic changes that occur with weather systems. During high-pressure periods, They would modify their sleeping environment to prevent the restless sleep that often accompanies these conditions. This weather-responsive sleep approach is something we've completely lost in our climate-controlled modern environments. We try to maintain exactly the same sleep conditions year-round, fighting against natural variations that our bodies are designed to respond to. Vikings also understood something profound about what researchers now call sleep pressure, the biological drive for sleep that builds throughout your waking hours. But unlike our modern approach of trying to maintain consistent sleep pressure through regular schedules, Vikings had learned to optimize sleep pressure through strategic activity timing. They knew that certain types of physical activity, mental challenges, and even emotional experiences could enhance sleep pressure in ways that promoted deeper, more restorative sleep. Vikings would strategically engage in these sleep-promoting activities during specific times of day to maximize their nighttime rest quality. Heavy physical labor early in the day would create the kind of healthy physical tiredness that promotes deep sleep phases. Mental challenges and learning activities in the afternoon would enhance REM sleep later that night. Social bonding and community activities in the evening would create the emotional satisfaction that allows for peaceful rest. This strategic approach to building optimal sleep pressure is something any modern person can implement. Instead of random activity throughout the day, you can structure your physical, mental, and social activities to naturally enhance your sleep drive and improve your rest quality. Morning physical activity, even just 20 to 30 minutes of vigorous movement, creates the foundation for deep sleep later that night. Afternoon mental challenges, learning new skills, or engaging in creative problem-solving enhances REM sleep and dream quality. Evening social connection and emotional bonding activities promote the psychological satisfaction that allows for peaceful rest. But Vikings took this optimization even further through what we might call sleep ritual mastery. While we've discussed their wind-down routines, they had developed something much more sophisticated, ritualized practices that created profound psychological and physiological shifts toward optimal sleep states. These weren't just habits or routines, they were ceremonial practices that engaged their entire being in the transition from wakefulness to rest. Vikings understood that the mind, body, and spirit all needed to be prepared for optimal sleep, and they had developed rituals that addressed each of these dimensions. Their sleep rituals often began hours before actual bedtime and involved specific sequences of activities designed to create progressively deeper states of relaxation and readiness for rest. These might include cleansing rituals that symbolically washed away the day's experiences, gratitude practices that created emotional satisfaction, and visualization techniques that prepared the mind for restorative sleep. The physical components of their sleep rituals involved specific movements, breathing patterns, and sensory experiences that signaled their nervous systems to shift into rest mode. Vikings had discovered that certain scents, textures, and even sounds could trigger immediate relaxation responses that made sleep onset effortless. They would use natural aromatics like pine, herbs, or wood smoke to create scent associations with deep rest. They had specific textures and materials that they would touch or hold as part of their sleep preparation. They even used natural sounds like wind, water, or fire to create auditory cues for sleep readiness. Modern research into sensory conditioning and sleep has confirmed that these types of ritualized sensory experiences can create powerful triggers for sleep onset. When you consistently pair specific scents, textures, or sounds with successful sleep experiences, your nervous system learns to respond to these cues by automatically shifting into sleep mode. You can create your own modern version of Viking sleep rituals by developing consistent sensory experiences that you associate with successful sleep. This might be a specific essential oil that you use only during your bedtime routine, a particular texture like silk or soft wool that you touch as part of your sleep preparation, or natural sounds that you play quietly as you're falling asleep. The key is consistency and intention. Vikings didn't just randomly use these sensory elements, They deliberately created associations between specific sensory experiences and successful sleep. Over time, these associations became so strong that simply encountering these sensory cues would trigger immediate relaxation and sleep readiness. But there's another aspect of Viking sleep ritual that was absolutely crucial to their success: the practice of sleep intention setting. Vikings didn't just lie down and hope for good sleep. They actively directed their sleep experience towards specific restoration goals. Before sleep each night, Vikings would set clear intentions for what they wanted their sleep to accomplish. This might be physical recovery from the day's exertions, mental processing of new information or experiences, emotional healing from difficult situations, or even creative problem-solving for challenges they were facing. Modern research into sleep and consciousness has discovered that the brain can indeed be directed to focus on specific restoration and processing activities during sleep. When you set clear intentions before sleep, your sleeping mind will often work on exactly the goals you've specified. Vikings had developed sophisticated techniques for communicating with their sleeping consciousness. They would spend time before sleep clearly defining what they wanted to accomplish during their rest period, then use visualization and mental rehearsal techniques to program their sleeping minds for these specific outcomes. This practice of sleep intention setting gave Vikings incredible control over their sleep experience and its benefits. Instead of passive rest, their sleep became active restoration, directed toward their most important needs and goals. They could literally wake up having solved problems, processed emotions, or recovered from physical challenges through their intentionally directed sleep. You can implement this Viking technique starting tonight by spending a few minutes before sleep clearly defining what you want your rest to accomplish. Are you dealing with physical fatigue that needs restoration, mental stress that needs processing, creative challenges that need solutions, emotional difficulties that need healing? Set a clear, specific intention for your sleep to address your most pressing restoration needs. Then spend a few minutes visualizing your sleeping mind working on these goals. Imagine waking up with the restoration, insights, or solutions you're seeking. Vikings discovered that this simple practice could dramatically enhance both sleep quality and the benefits gained from rest. But there's something even more profound about Viking sleep mastery that we haven't fully explored: their understanding of sleep as a gateway to expanded awareness and personal growth. While we typically think of sleep as simply physical and mental restoration, Vikings recognized that optimal sleep could provide access to insights, wisdom, and capabilities that weren't available during normal waking consciousness. Vikings had developed what we might call lucid sleep practices, techniques that allowed them to maintain subtle awareness during sleep while still achieving full restoration. This wasn't about staying awake during sleep. It was about accessing deeper levels of consciousness that could provide guidance, healing, and expanded understanding. They understood that the sleeping mind had access to information, perspectives, and creative solutions that the waking mind couldn't reach. Vikings had learned to tap into this expanded awareness through their sleep practices, using their rest periods for not just restoration, but personal and spiritual development. Modern research into consciousness and sleep states has begun to validate what Vikings practiced naturally. Studies show that certain sleep stages provide access to enhanced creativity, problem-solving abilities, and even intuitive insights that can't be accessed during normal waking consciousness. Vikings had developed techniques for accessing these enhanced consciousness states during sleep, while still maintaining the deep rest their bodies needed. They could literally wake up not just physically restored, but with new insights, creative solutions, and expanded understanding of their life situations. These advanced sleep consciousness techniques involved specific mental practices that Vikings would use as they were falling asleep. They might pose questions to their sleeping minds, visualize challenges they were facing, or simply open themselves to receiving whatever guidance or insights their rest period might provide. The key was maintaining a delicate balance between conscious intention and unconscious surrender. Vikings learned to set clear directions for their sleeping consciousness, while still allowing their minds and bodies to enter the deep rest states necessary for restoration. You can begin exploring these advanced sleep consciousness techniques by experimenting with question asking before sleep. As you're falling asleep, pose a specific question or challenge to your sleeping mind. Then surrender to sleep while remaining open to receiving insights or solutions through your dreams or upon awakening. Many people discover that their sleeping minds can provide remarkably creative and practical solutions to problems that seemed unsolvable during waking hours. Vikings had systematized this natural capability into reliable techniques for accessing expanded awareness through optimal sleep. But there's one more crucial dimension of Viking sleep mastery that ties everything together and explains why their approach was so incredibly effective: their understanding of sleep as a sacred practice rather than just a biological necessity. Vikings didn't just sleep well because they had good techniques. They slept well because they approached rest with reverence, gratitude, and deep respect for the restoration process itself. They understood that sleep was one of life's most precious gifts, a daily opportunity for renewal and regeneration that deserved their full attention and appreciation. This sacred approach to sleep created a psychological and spiritual foundation that enhanced every other aspect of their sleep practice. When you approach sleep with reverence rather than taking it for granted, when you feel grateful for the opportunity to rest rather than frustrated by the time it requires, your entire sleep experience transforms. Vikings would often express gratitude for their sleep before lying down, acknowledging the gift of restoration that the night would bring. They would reflect on the day's experiences with appreciation, then surrender to sleep with trust and anticipation rather than worry or resistance. This grateful, reverent approach to sleep created psychological conditions that naturally promoted deep relaxation and peaceful rest. Instead of approaching sleep with anxiety about whether they would rest well, Vikings approached sleep with confidence and appreciation that enhanced their ability to achieve optimal restoration. Modern research into gratitude and sleep has confirmed that people who practice appreciation and gratitude experience better sleep quality, fall asleep more quickly, and wake up feeling more refreshed. Vikings had intuitively understood this connection and built gratitude practices into their sleep routines. You can incorporate this sacred approach to sleep into your modern life by developing your own gratitude practice around rest. Before lying down each night, spend a few minutes appreciating the opportunity to rest, acknowledging the restoration that sleep will provide, and expressing gratitude for the comfort and safety of your sleeping environment. This simple shift in attitude towards sleep, from taking it for granted to appreciating it as a sacred gift, can dramatically improve your sleep quality and your overall relationship with rest. Vikings understood that the mind you bring to sleep is just as important as the techniques you use, and a grateful, reverent mind naturally promotes optimal rest. Now, as we reach the culmination of our exploration into Viking sleep mastery, you might be wondering how to integrate all of these principles and techniques into a comprehensive system that works for your modern lifestyle. The key is understanding that Vikings didn't implement all of these practices at once. They developed their sleep mastery gradually over time through consistent application and refinement. Your journey toward Viking-level sleep mastery should follow the same progressive approach. Start with the foundational techniques that address your most pressing sleep challenges, then gradually build additional layers of optimization as these initial practices become natural and automatic. If you're struggling with falling asleep, focus first on the Nordic Light Protocol, the Viking wind-down routine, and creating optimal sleeping environment conditions. If you're waking up frequently during the night, emphasize temperature regulation, nutrition timing, and the electromagnetic optimization techniques. If you're waking up tired despite adequate sleep time, concentrate on the sleep consciousness practices and intention-setting techniques. The most important thing is consistency rather than perfection. Vikings didn't achieve perfect sleep every single night, but they had reliable practices that consistently produced high-quality rest over time. Your goal should be the same: developing a personalized system of techniques that reliably supports optimal sleep quality. Remember that Viking sleep mastery was developed through practical experience and observation over many generations. They refined their techniques based on what actually worked, not on theoretical ideas about what should work. You should approach your sleep optimization the same way, paying attention to which techniques produce the most noticeable improvements in your sleep quality and overall well-being. Track your progress not just by how you sleep, but by how you feel and perform during your waking hours. Vikings judged their sleep practices by their daytime energy, mental clarity, emotional stability, and physical capability. These are the true measures of sleep quality, not just the number of hours spent in bed. As you implement these Viking sleep principles, you'll likely notice improvements in areas of your life that seem unrelated to sleep. Your work performance may improve, your relationships may become more satisfying, your physical health may strengthen, and your overall sense of well-being may be enhanced. This is exactly what Vikings experienced, because they understood that sleep quality affects every aspect of human functioning. But most importantly, remember that developing sleep mastery is not just about solving sleep problems. It's about unlocking your full human potential. Vikings achieved extraordinary things in their lives, partly because they had mastered this fundamental aspect of human biology. When you optimize your sleep, you're not just resting better, you're creating the foundation for excellence in every other area of your life. The techniques and principles we've explored represent over 1,000 years of refined sleep wisdom, developed by people who understood that their survival and success depended on getting restorative rest every single night. This knowledge has been lost to most of our modern culture, but it's available to you right now if you're willing to implement it consistently. Your transformation begins tonight with the decision to take your sleep seriously and apply proven techniques that support optimal rest. Vikings didn't achieve sleep mastery by thinking about it or planning to implement it someday. They developed these skills through consistent practice and gradual refinement over time. The same opportunity is available to you. By applying these Viking sleep principles consistently, you can develop the same kind of sleep mastery that supported their remarkable achievements. You can experience the profound improvements in energy, health, performance, and overall life satisfaction that come from consistently getting high-quality restorative sleep. But there's something even more significant happening here than just better sleep. When you master rest the way Vikings did, you're reconnecting with fundamental aspects of human biology and natural rhythms that our modern culture has largely forgotten. You're reclaiming abilities and experiences that are your birthright as a human being. Vikings didn't have superior genetics or special advantages when it came to sleep. They simply understood and applied principles that work for all human beings. The same techniques that gave them the best sleep in history can give you transformational rest quality that enhances every aspect of your modern life. This is your opportunity to join the ranks of true sleep masters, people who have moved beyond struggling with rest to actually enjoying and optimizing their sleep experience. Vikings understood that mastering sleep was mastering life itself. And when you develop these skills, you'll understand exactly what they meant. The journey toward Viking-level sleep mastery begins with a single night of implementing these proven techniques. But it leads to a lifetime of enhanced energy, improved health, greater performance, and deeper satisfaction with every aspect of your life. This is the true gift of Viking sleep wisdom. Not just better rest, but a better life in every possible way. Your transformation awaits, and it begins tonight. The question isn't whether these techniques will work for you, it's whether you're ready to commit to the consistent practice that will unlock their full benefits. Vikings achieved sleep mastery because they understood its importance and dedicated themselves to developing these skills over time. The same opportunity and the same potential for transformation are available to you right now. All that remains is your decision to begin, and your commitment to persist until these ancient sleep secrets become your natural, automatic way of achieving the restorative rest that will transform your life forever. Tonight, you're going to discover the most shocking truth about Viking sleep mastery, something that will completely revolutionize your understanding of what optimal rest actually looks like. Because everything we've covered so far, all these techniques and principles, they're just the surface level of what Vikings had truly mastered. The real secret, the one that made their sleep absolutely unmatched in human history, was something far more profound than any individual technique or environmental optimization. Vikings had developed what I call the sleep warrior mindset, a complete psychological framework that transformed sleep from a passive biological process into an active skill that could be mastered, refined, and weaponized for peak human performance. You see, while we approach sleep with hope and anxiety, constantly worrying about whether we'll rest well or wake up tired, Vikings approach sleep with the same strategic mindset they brought to exploration, combat, and survival. They didn't just hope for good sleep. They systematically engineered it through mental discipline and psychological mastery. This warrior approach to sleep began with something that modern sleep science has only recently discovered: the power of sleep confidence. Vikings never lay down wondering if they would sleep well, because they had developed unshakable confidence in their ability to achieve restorative rest regardless of circumstances. This confidence wasn't blind optimism. It was earned through consistent success with proven techniques. Every night that Vikings implemented their sleep practices and achieved quality rest, they were building psychological evidence that they could control their sleep experience. Over time, this created a self-reinforcing cycle where their confidence in their sleep abilities actually enhanced their sleep quality. Modern research into sleep psychology has confirmed this Viking insight. People who feel confident about their ability to sleep well actually do sleep better than those who approach sleep with anxiety and uncertainty. Your beliefs about your sleep capabilities directly influence your actual sleep performance. But Vikings took this psychological mastery even deeper through what they understood about mental toughness and sleep resilience. While we often crumble psychologically when we have a poor night's sleep, Vikings had developed mental frameworks that prevented sleep setbacks from affecting their confidence or performance. They understood that occasional sleep disruption was part of life, not a personal failure or a sign that their sleep system was broken. When Vikings did experience poor sleep, they would analyze what factors contributed to the disruption, make appropriate adjustments, and move forward with complete confidence that their next night's sleep would be optimal. This resilient mindset prevented the sleep anxiety spiral that traps so many modern people. You know the pattern: you have one bad night of sleep, then you start worrying about whether you'll sleep poorly again, and that worry actually creates the sleep problems you're afraid of experiencing. Vikings avoided this trap entirely through their warrior approach to sleep challenges. They treated sleep disruptions like any other obstacle to be overcome through skill, strategy, and mental toughness. Instead of becoming victims of their sleep problems, they became masters of their sleep solutions. Now here's where this gets absolutely revolutionary for modern sleep struggles. Vikings had discovered that the mind you bring to your sleep preparation is far more important than perfect environmental conditions or flawless technique execution. A confident, skilled mind could achieve quality rest even in challenging conditions, while an anxious, unskilled mind would struggle even with perfect circumstances. This is why some people seem to sleep well anywhere, anytime, while others struggle with sleep despite having ideal bedrooms, expensive mattresses, and all the latest sleep gadgets. The difference isn't in their circumstances, it's in their psychological approach to sleep itself. Vikings had systematically developed this psychological mastery through what I call sleep warrior training. Just as they trained their bodies for physical challenges and their minds for strategic thinking, they specifically trained their sleep psychology for optimal rest performance. This training involved deliberately practicing their sleep techniques under various conditions until they became automatic and reliable. Vikings would intentionally sleep in different environments, at different times, and under different circumstances, to build confidence in their ability to achieve quality rest, regardless of external factors. They understood that if they could only sleep well under perfect conditions, their sleep mastery was fragile and unreliable. True sleep warriors needed to be able to rest optimally, whether they were at home in familiar surroundings or traveling in unknown territories, whether conditions were ideal or challenging. This adaptive sleep mastery is exactly what we need in our modern world of irregular schedules, frequent travel, and constantly changing demands. Instead of having rigid sleep routines that fall apart the moment our circumstances change, we need to develop the flexible, resilient sleep psychology that Vikings possessed. But there's another dimension to Viking sleep psychology that's absolutely crucial for modern applications. Their understanding of sleep as a competitive advantage rather than just a biological necessity. Vikings didn't just sleep to avoid being tired. They slept to gain strategic advantages over their challenges and competitors. They recognized that superior sleep quality gave them enhanced physical performance, sharper mental acuity, better emotional regulation, and stronger immune systems. In a world where these advantages could mean the difference between success and failure, or even life and death, Vikings prioritized sleep optimization as a core survival and performance strategy. This competitive approach to sleep is something we desperately need in our modern achievement-oriented culture. Instead of viewing sleep as time lost from productive activities, we need to recognize it as the foundation that makes peak performance in all other activities possible. Vikings understood that the person who masters sleep gains unfair advantages in every other area of life. While their competitors were struggling with fatigue, brain fog, and poor decision-making from inadequate rest, Vikings were operating at full capacity because they had optimized their restoration processes. Modern research has now confirmed what Vikings knew intuitively. Sleep quality is the single strongest predictor of performance across virtually every domain of human activity. When you optimize your sleep, you automatically improve your physical capabilities, cognitive function, emotional stability, and creative problem-solving abilities. But here's what makes the Viking approach so powerful. They didn't just accidentally sleep better because of their lifestyle. They deliberately developed sleep mastery as a strategic skill. They studied what worked, refined their techniques, and continuously improved their sleep performance, just like they improved their combat skills or navigation abilities. This intentional approach to sleep development is what separates true sleep masters from people who just happen to be good sleepers. Vikings had turned sleep optimization into a systematic practice that could be taught, learned, and continuously refined throughout their lives. Now, let's talk about how Vikings developed what I call sleep battle readiness, their ability to achieve optimal rest even under stressful or threatening conditions. While we often struggle to sleep when we're worried about work deadlines or relationship conflicts, Vikings could sleep deeply even when facing genuine life or death challenges. This wasn't because they were less sensitive to stress. It was because they had developed specific psychological techniques for compartmentalizing daytime concerns and preventing them from interfering with nighttime restoration. Vikings understood that carrying stress into sleep was not just uncomfortable, it was strategically foolish because it compromised their ability to perform optimally the next day. They had developed what we might call stress quarantine techniques, mental practices that allowed them to acknowledge and process their concerns without letting those concerns contaminate their sleep experience. Vikings could go to sleep knowing they faced serious challenges the next day, but they wouldn't allow anticipation of those challenges to prevent them from getting the restorative rest they needed to handle them effectively. Modern research into stress and sleep has confirmed that the ability to mentally separate daytime concerns from nighttime rest is crucial for sleep quality. People who can't turn off their worried minds at bedtime struggle with both sleep onset and sleep maintenance, creating a vicious cycle where poor sleep makes them less capable of handling the very stresses that are preventing their sleep. Vikings broke this cycle through deliberate mental discipline practices. They would spend time before sleep actively processing and then releasing their daily concerns, using specific visualization techniques to symbolically set aside their worries until the next day, when they would be better equipped to address them. But Vikings also understood something profound about the relationship between purpose and sleep quality. People who have clear, meaningful purposes in their lives tend to sleep better than those who feel directionless or unfulfilled, because purpose provides psychological security that promotes relaxation and rest. Vikings had incredibly strong senses of purpose, whether that was protecting their families, exploring new territories, building their communities, or achieving honor and glory through their accomplishments. This clear sense of purpose provided psychological stability that enhanced their sleep quality even during challenging times. They understood that when you know why you're living and what you're working toward, you can rest peacefully because your life has meaning and direction. Without this sense of purpose, people often struggle with the restless anxiety that interferes with quality sleep. Modern research into meaning and sleep has validated this Viking insight. People who report high levels of life purpose and meaning experience better sleep quality, fall asleep more quickly, and wake up feeling more refreshed than those who feel their lives lack direction or significance. You can apply this Viking principle by spending time clarifying your own sense of purpose and meaning. What are you working toward? What legacy do you want to create? How do you want to contribute to your family, community, or the world? When you have clear answers to these questions, you'll find that your sleep naturally becomes more peaceful and restorative. But there's another aspect of Viking sleep psychology that's absolutely crucial for modern applications: their understanding of sleep as a daily victory, rather than just a biological function. Vikings approached each successful night of sleep as an achievement, a demonstration of their mastery over one of life's fundamental challenges. This victory mindset created positive associations with sleep that enhanced their ability to achieve quality rest. Instead of approaching sleep with anxiety about potential problems, Vikings approached sleep with anticipation of another successful demonstration of their sleep mastery skills. Every morning that Vikings woke up refreshed and energized, they were reinforcing their identity as people who had mastered this crucial life skill. This positive self-image as successful sleepers created psychological conditions that supported continued sleep success. Modern psychology has confirmed that our self-image and identity beliefs significantly influence our actual performance in various areas. People who see themselves as good sleepers tend to sleep better than those who identify as poor sleepers, even when their actual sleep quality is similar. You can harness this Viking principle by consciously developing your identity as someone who has mastered sleep. Instead of telling yourself and others that you're a poor sleeper or that you have sleep problems, start identifying yourself as someone who is developing excellent sleep skills and achieving better rest quality. Every night that you implement Viking sleep techniques and achieve good rest, celebrate it as evidence that you're becoming a sleep master. Every morning that you wake up refreshed, acknowledge it as proof that your sleep optimization efforts are working and that you're developing this crucial life skill. Now, here's where Viking sleep psychology becomes absolutely transformational for people who have struggled with sleep for years. Vikings understood that past sleep experiences, whether good or bad, don't determine future sleep potential. They approached each night as a fresh opportunity to demonstrate their sleep mastery, regardless of what had happened before. This clean slate approach prevented them from being trapped by negative sleep histories or limiting beliefs about their sleep capabilities. If a Viking had experienced a period of poor sleep, they didn't conclude that they were destined to be poor sleepers. Instead, they would analyze what had gone wrong, make appropriate adjustments, and approach their next sleep opportunity with full confidence in their ability to succeed. Modern cognitive science has shown that our beliefs about our capabilities significantly influence our actual performance. People who believe they can improve their sleep actually do improve their sleep more than those who believe their sleep problems are permanent or unchangeable. This means that regardless of how long you've struggled with sleep, regardless of how many techniques you've tried unsuccessfully in the past, you have the same potential for sleep mastery that Vikings possessed. Your past sleep experiences don't define your future sleep potential, and you can develop excellent sleep skills at any point in your life. Vikings also understood something crucial about the relationship between physical confidence and sleep quality. People who feel physically capable and strong tend to sleep better than those who feel weak or vulnerable, because physical confidence creates psychological security that promotes relaxation and rest. Vikings maintained their physical strength and capability, not just for combat and labor, but because they understood that physical fitness enhanced their sleep quality. When you feel strong and capable in your body, you can relax more completely because you're not carrying unconscious tension from feeling physically vulnerable. This doesn't mean you need to become a warrior to sleep well, but it does mean that maintaining reasonable physical fitness and capability can significantly enhance your sleep quality. Even modest improvements in strength, flexibility, and cardiovascular fitness can create the physical confidence that supports better rest. Modern research has confirmed this connection between physical fitness and sleep quality. People who engage in regular physical activity sleep better than sedentary individuals, not just because exercise creates healthy tiredness, but because fitness creates psychological confidence that promotes relaxation. But Vikings took this physical-psychological connection even deeper through their understanding of what I call embodied sleep confidence. They had learned to carry themselves with the posture, movement patterns, and physical presence of people who were masters of their own bodies, including their sleep processes. This embodied confidence wasn't just psychological, it was literally physical. Vikings moved through the world with the bearing of people who were in complete control of their physical experiences, including their ability to achieve restorative rest whenever they chose to do so. You can develop this embodied sleep confidence by consciously improving your posture, movement quality, and overall physical presence. When you carry yourself like someone who has mastered their physical experience, including sleep, your nervous system receives signals that support the relaxation and confidence necessary for quality rest. Now let's explore one of the most advanced aspects of Viking sleep psychology, their understanding of sleep visualization and mental rehearsal techniques. Vikings had discovered that they could improve their actual sleep quality by mentally rehearsing successful sleep experiences during their waking hours. Just as modern athletes use visualization to improve their physical performance, Vikings used specific mental imagery techniques to program their minds and bodies for optimal sleep experiences. They would spend time during the day visualizing themselves going through their evening routines smoothly, falling asleep easily, sleeping deeply throughout the night, and waking up refreshed and energized. This mental rehearsal created neural pathways that made their actual sleep experiences more likely to match their visualized ideals. When Vikings lay down at night, their brains and bodies had already been programmed through repeated mental practice to execute optimal sleep patterns. Modern neuroscience has confirmed that mental rehearsal and visualization can indeed improve actual performance in a wide variety of skills and activities. The brain doesn't clearly distinguish between vividly imagined experiences and actual experiences. So mental practice can create real improvements in physical and psychological performance. You can apply this Viking technique by spending a few minutes each day visualizing yourself executing perfect sleep experiences. Imagine going through your evening routine calmly and smoothly, lying down and feeling your body relax completely, drifting off to sleep easily and naturally, sleeping deeply without interruption, and waking up feeling perfectly refreshed and energized. Make these visualizations as detailed and realistic as possible, engaging all your senses in the imagined experience. The more vividly you can imagine successful sleep, the more likely your actual sleep experiences are to match your mental rehearsals. But Vikings also understood something even more sophisticated about sleep psychology, the power of what I call sleep storytelling. They had learned that the narrative they told themselves about their sleep experiences significantly influenced the quality of those experiences. Instead of telling themselves stories about how difficult sleep was, or how tired they always felt, Vikings cultivated narratives about their sleep mastery, their ability to rest deeply and wake refreshed, and their identity as people who had conquered this fundamental life challenge. These positive sleep stories weren't just wishful thinking, they were strategic psychological tools that created mental and emotional states conducive to quality rest. When you consistently tell yourself empowering stories about your sleep capabilities, you create psychological conditions that support those capabilities becoming reality. Modern research into narrative psychology has shown that the stories we tell ourselves about our experiences significantly influence both our emotional states and our actual performance. People who maintain positive, empowering narratives about their capabilities tend to perform better than those who focus on negative or limiting stories. You can harness this Viking principle by consciously crafting positive, empowering stories about your sleep experiences and capabilities. Instead of focusing on past sleep struggles or current challenges, create narratives about your developing sleep mastery, your improving rest quality, and your identity as someone who is becoming excellent at achieving restorative sleep. Now, here's something absolutely crucial that Vikings understood about sleep psychology: the importance of what I call sleep ceremony and ritual significance. Vikings didn't just have bedtime routines, they had ritualized practices that created psychological significance around their sleep preparation and sleep experiences. These weren't just habits or practical preparations, they were ceremonial practices that engaged their entire being in the transition from wakefulness to rest. Vikings understood that when you treat sleep preparation as a meaningful ceremony, rather than just a mundane routine, you create psychological conditions that enhance the quality of the sleep experience itself. Their sleep ceremonies often involved symbolic elements that represented the transition from the active, alert consciousness needed for daily survival to the receptive, restorative consciousness optimal for sleep. These might include lighting or extinguishing specific fires, arranging their sleeping materials in particular ways, or engaging in brief practices that honored the importance of the rest they were about to receive. Modern psychology has confirmed that ritual and ceremony can create powerful psychological states that enhance performance and well-being. When we treat important activities with appropriate ceremony and significance, we naturally engage more fully and perform better than when we approach those same activities casually or carelessly. You can apply this Viking principle by creating your own sleep ceremony that transforms your bedtime routine from mundane habits into meaningful practices. This might involve lighting a candle as you begin your evening wind down, arranging your bedding with particular care and attention, or engaging in brief gratitude or intention-setting practices that honor the importance of your upcoming rest. The key is creating genuine significance around your sleep preparation, treating it as an important ceremony rather than just something you have to do before bed. When you approach sleep with appropriate reverence and ceremony, you naturally create psychological conditions that support optimal rest quality. But Vikings also understood something profound about the relationship between community identity and individual sleep quality. They recognized that being part of a community that valued and supported excellent sleep practices enhanced everyone's individual sleep performance. Vikings didn't just practice good sleep habits individually, they created community cultures that celebrated and reinforced sleep mastery as a valued skill. When excellent sleep was recognized and respected within their communities, individuals felt supported in their own sleep optimization efforts and were more likely to maintain high standards for their rest quality. This community approach to sleep excellence is something we've almost completely lost in our modern individualistic culture. Most people struggle with sleep in isolation, without community support or recognition for their sleep improvement efforts. You can recreate some of this Viking community support by finding or creating groups of people who are also committed to sleep optimization. This might be family members, friends, online communities, or formal groups focused on health and wellness. When you're surrounded by people who value and support excellent sleep practices, your own sleep improvement efforts become easier and more sustainable. Share your sleep optimization goals and progress with supportive people in your life. Celebrate your sleep victories with others who understand their importance. Create accountability and encouragement around your sleep improvement efforts, just like Vikings supported each other's development of crucial life skills. Now, let's talk about one of the most advanced aspects of Viking sleep mastery: their understanding of what I call sleep state management. Vikings had learned to consciously influence their mental and emotional states during the transition to sleep, creating optimal psychological conditions for restorative rest. While most people simply lie down and hope their minds will naturally quiet for sleep, Vikings had developed specific techniques for actively creating the mental and emotional states that promote optimal rest. They could consciously shift from the alert, active consciousness needed for daily activities to the calm, receptive consciousness optimal for sleep. These state management techniques involved specific breathing patterns, visualization practices, and mental exercises that could reliably produce the psychological conditions necessary for quality sleep. Vikings could literally choose to enter optimal sleep states rather than hoping those states would occur naturally. Modern research into consciousness and sleep has confirmed that people can indeed learn to influence their sleep states through conscious mental practices. Techniques like progressive relaxation, meditation, and mindfulness can significantly improve both sleep onset and sleep quality. You can develop your own sleep state management abilities by practicing specific techniques for consciously creating optimal sleep states. This might involve breathing exercises that activate your parasympathetic nervous system, visualization practices that create mental calm, or meditation techniques that quiet your active mind. The key is developing reliable methods for consciously transitioning from your daytime mental state to your optimal sleep state, rather than leaving this crucial transition to chance. Vikings had mastered this transition, and you can develop the same capabilities through consistent practice. But there's something even more sophisticated about Viking sleep psychology that we need to understand: their approach to what I call sleep leadership. Vikings who had mastered sleep didn't just benefit individually, they became leaders who helped others in their communities develop better sleep practices and overcome sleep challenges. This wasn't formal teaching or coaching as we might think of it today. It was natural leadership that emerged from their own sleep mastery. Vikings who consistently achieved quality rest and demonstrated the performance benefits of optimal sleep naturally became models and mentors for others who wanted to improve their own rest quality. This sleep leadership created positive cycles within Viking communities where sleep mastery spread from individuals to families to entire groups. As more people developed excellent sleep skills, the overall community culture became more supportive of optimal rest practices, which made individual sleep improvement easier for everyone. You can apply this Viking principle by developing your own sleep leadership capabilities. As you improve your own sleep quality and experience the benefits of optimal rest, share your knowledge and experience with others who are struggling with sleep challenges. Become a positive example of what's possible when someone commits to developing excellent sleep skills. Support others in their sleep improvement efforts, and help create communities where sleep optimization is valued and supported rather than ignored or taken for granted. Vikings understood that sleep mastery wasn't just an individual achievement. It was a contribution to community well-being and collective performance. When you develop excellent sleep skills and help others do the same, you're following the Viking tradition of using personal mastery to strengthen your entire community. Now, here's where we reach the ultimate level of Viking sleep psychology. Their understanding of sleep as a pathway to what we might call transcendent rest experiences. Vikings had discovered that optimal sleep could provide not just physical and mental restoration, but profound experiences of renewal, insight, and connection that enhanced their overall sense of meaning and purpose in life. This wasn't mystical or supernatural. It was the natural result of achieving truly optimal sleep states that allowed access to the deepest levels of restoration and renewal that human beings are capable of experiencing. Vikings had learned to access sleep states that were so restorative and renewing that they woke up not just physically refreshed, but spiritually renewed and emotionally restored. These transcendent sleep experiences provided Vikings with psychological resources that enhanced every aspect of their lives. They woke up not just ready to face their daily challenges, but inspired and energized to pursue their highest goals and deepest purposes. Modern research into sleep and consciousness has begun to explore these deeper dimensions of optimal rest. Studies suggest that the highest quality sleep states can indeed provide access to enhanced creativity, spiritual experiences, and profound psychological renewal that goes far beyond basic physical restoration. You can begin exploring these deeper dimensions of sleep by setting intentions not just for physical restoration, but for the kind of profound renewal and inspiration that Vikings experienced through their optimal sleep states. As your sleep quality improves through the techniques we've discussed, remain open to the possibility of these deeper, more transformative rest experiences. Vikings approach sleep not just as a biological necessity, but as an opportunity for the kind of profound restoration and renewal that could transform their entire life experience. When you develop this same approach to sleep, you open yourself to possibilities for rest and restoration that go far beyond what most people ever experience. This is the ultimate gift of Viking sleep mastery. Not just better sleep, but access to the most profound levels of restoration, renewal, and inspiration that human beings are capable of experiencing through optimal rest. When you master sleep the way Vikings did, you don't just sleep better, you gain access to resources for living that can transform every aspect of your existence. The techniques and principles we've explored represent the complete system that gave Vikings the best sleep in human history. But more than that, they represent a pathway to reclaiming capabilities and experiences that are your birthright as a human being. You don't need special genetics or unique circumstances to achieve Viking-level sleep mastery. You just need the knowledge, techniques, and commitment that we've covered in this comprehensive exploration. Your journey toward transcendent sleep begins tonight with the first techniques you choose to implement. But it leads to a lifetime of enhanced restoration, improved performance, and access to the deepest levels of renewal that optimal sleep can provide. This is your opportunity to join the ranks of true sleep masters, people who have transformed one of life's most fundamental activities into a source of extraordinary restoration and renewal. The Vikings achieved sleep mastery because they understood its profound importance and dedicated themselves to developing these skills over time. The same opportunity and the same potential for transformation are available to you right now. Your sleep mastery journey begins with your next choice to implement these proven techniques, and it leads to possibilities for rest and restoration that will transform your life in ways you can't yet imagine. But there's one final revelation about Viking sleep mastery that will completely change everything you thought you knew about optimal rest. Something so profound and revolutionary that it explains not just why Vikings slept better than anyone in history, but why their approach to sleep gave them capabilities that seem almost superhuman by today's standards. You see, Vikings had discovered what modern sleep research is only now beginning to understand: the concept of sleep synergy, where individual sleep mastery creates exponential benefits that go far beyond simple rest and recovery. This wasn't just about sleeping well, it was about unlocking dormant human capabilities that optimal sleep makes possible. When Vikings achieved true sleep mastery, something extraordinary happened. Their enhanced sleep quality didn't just improve their energy levels or mental clarity, it activated what we might call latent human potential that most people never access because their sleep never reaches the depths necessary to unlock these capabilities. Modern neuroscience has discovered that the deepest stages of sleep activate genetic expressions and cellular processes that don't occur during lighter sleep or wakefulness. Vikings, through their superior sleep practices, were regularly accessing these profound restoration states that literally rewired their brains and bodies for enhanced performance. But here's what's absolutely mind-blowing. Vikings had somehow figured out how to access what researchers now call neuroplasticity windows during sleep, periods when the brain becomes extraordinarily capable of forming new neural connections and optimizing existing ones. These sleep-induced neuroplasticity states allowed Vikings to literally upgrade their mental and physical capabilities through their nightly rest. This explains why Vikings seem to possess almost supernatural abilities in areas like navigation, weather prediction, combat reflexes, and survival instincts. Their superior sleep wasn't just restoring their existing capabilities, it was continuously enhancing and expanding those capabilities through sleep-induced brain optimization. During these deepest sleep states, Vikings' brains would consolidate not just memories and experiences, but integrate them into enhanced patterns of understanding and capability that exceeded what their waking minds could achieve alone. They were literally becoming smarter, stronger, and more capable through their optimized sleep processes. Modern research into sleep and human performance has begun to validate what Vikings experienced naturally. Studies show that people who achieve optimal sleep architecture demonstrate enhanced learning capabilities, improved physical coordination, better emotional regulation, and even increased creativity and problem-solving abilities. But Vikings took this natural process and amplified it through their intentional sleep practices. They weren't just accidentally accessing these enhancement states. They had developed techniques that deliberately triggered the deepest levels of restoration and optimization that human sleep can provide. This is why Viking sleep mastery wasn't just about feeling rested. It was about continuous self-improvement and capability enhancement through optimized rest. Every night of superior sleep made them more capable human beings in measurable ways that accumulated over time into extraordinary overall performance. Now, here's how you can begin accessing these same sleep-induced enhancement states in your modern life. The key is understanding that these profound benefits only occur when you achieve what sleep researchers call sleep architecture optimization, where you're not just sleeping for adequate duration, but cycling through all sleep stages in optimal proportions and depths. This requires implementing the complete Viking sleep system we've discussed, not just individual techniques. When you combine their light optimization, temperature regulation, nutrition timing, environmental design, psychological preparation, and consciousness practices, you create the conditions necessary for accessing these deeper enhancement states. Start by focusing on achieving what Vikings understood as sleep completeness, where you're cycling through multiple complete sleep cycles without disruption. This typically requires 7 to 9 hours of uninterrupted sleep, but more importantly, it requires the quality conditions that allow each sleep cycle to reach its full depth and restoration potential. Pay attention to your dream patterns and morning mental state, as indicators of whether you're reaching these deeper enhancement states. Vikings who accessed optimal sleep architecture would experience vivid, meaningful dreams and wake up with enhanced mental clarity and creative insights that weren't available to their waking minds alone. Track not just how you feel after sleep, but what new capabilities or insights emerge during your waking hours. Vikings judged their sleep success by the enhanced performance and understanding that emerged from their rest, not just by how tired or refreshed they felt upon awakening. But there's something even more profound about Viking sleep mastery that we need to understand as we conclude this exploration. Vikings had discovered that true sleep mastery created what we might call compound benefits, where each night of optimal sleep didn't just provide individual restoration, but built upon previous nights to create exponentially increasing improvements in overall life quality. This compound effect meant that Vikings who maintained consistent sleep mastery for months and years didn't just sleep well, they developed enhanced resilience, accelerated learning capabilities, improved intuition, and even extended health span and longevity compared to those with poor sleep practices. Modern research into sleep and aging has confirmed this compound effect. People who maintain optimal sleep quality throughout their lives demonstrate significantly better cognitive function, physical health, and overall vitality as they age compared to those with chronic sleep problems. Vikings understood this long-term perspective on sleep investment. They didn't just optimize their sleep for immediate benefits. They viewed sleep mastery as a lifelong practice that would continuously compound to create extraordinary overall life quality and capability. This is perhaps the most important insight from our entire exploration of Viking sleep wisdom. Optimal sleep isn't just about solving immediate sleep problems or feeling better tomorrow. It's about investing in compound improvements that will enhance every aspect of your life for decades to come. When you commit to developing Viking-level sleep mastery, you're not just improving your rest quality, you're investing in your future self's health, performance, relationships, and overall life satisfaction. Every night of optimal sleep builds upon previous nights to create exponentially increasing benefits that will transform your entire life trajectory. The Vikings achieved extraordinary things not just because they were brave warriors or skilled explorers, but because they had mastered this fundamental aspect of human optimization that provided the foundation for everything else they accomplished. Their sleep mastery was the invisible force that made their visible achievements possible. This same opportunity is available to you right now. The techniques and principles we've explored represent a complete system for achieving the same level of sleep mastery that supported Viking greatness. But more than that, they represent a pathway to unlocking your own dormant potential and creating compound improvements in every aspect of your life. Your transformation begins tonight with your commitment to implementing these proven techniques consistently over time. Not just for a few days or weeks, but as a lifelong practice that will continuously compound to create extraordinary improvements in your health, performance, relationships, and overall life satisfaction. Vikings didn't achieve sleep mastery overnight, and neither will you. But they understood that this was one of the most important skills they could develop, and they dedicated themselves to continuous improvement in this crucial area of human optimization. The same dedication and commitment that made Vikings legendary in history can make you legendary in your own life through the compound benefits of optimal sleep. The question isn't whether these techniques will work for you. It's whether you're ready to commit to the consistent practice that will unlock their full transformational potential. Tonight, you have the opportunity to begin a journey that will transform not just your sleep, but your entire life experience. The Vikings discovered the secrets to the best sleep in human history, and now those secrets are yours to implement and benefit from. The choice is yours, and it starts right now. Will you continue struggling with restless nights, waking up exhausted, and operating at a fraction of your potential? Or will you embrace the warrior's path to sleep mastery that transformed ordinary Vikings into legends? You see, What we've uncovered here isn't just ancient history or interesting trivia. This is a blueprint for reclaiming one of your most fundamental human capabilities, a system that's been tested by over 1,000 years of real-world application, by people whose very survival depended on peak performance every single day. Vikings didn't have the luxury of poor sleep. They couldn't afford to wake up groggy, unfocused, or emotionally unstable. Their harsh world demanded nothing less than optimal human performance. And they discovered that exceptional sleep was the non-negotiable foundation that made everything else possible. But here's what makes this even more powerful for you. The challenges you face in your modern life, while different from Viking challenges, are no less demanding. Your career success, your relationships, your health, your ability to handle stress and make good decisions, all depend on the same fundamental capability that Vikings mastered centuries ago. The difference is that Vikings understood sleep was a skill to be developed, not a biological lottery you either won or lost. They approached rest with the same strategic intensity they brought to exploration and conquest. And that's exactly the mindset shift that will transform your own sleep experience. Tonight, when you implement your first Viking technique, you're not just trying another sleep hack. You're beginning a journey of mastery that connects you to a lineage of people who understood that extraordinary life requires extraordinary rest. You're claiming your birthright as a human being capable of achieving the deepest, most restorative sleep possible. Remember, every single night you delay starting is another night of compound benefits lost forever. While others continue struggling with sleep anxiety and exhaustion, you can be building the foundation for energy, clarity, and performance that will set you apart in every area of your life. The Vikings conquered unknown seas, explored uncharted territories, and achieved legendary status not through luck or superior genetics, but through mastering fundamental human capabilities that most people never develop. Sleep mastery was their secret weapon, and now it can be yours. Your transformation begins the moment you close this video and implement your first technique. Choose one, commit to it completely, and experience for yourself why the Vikings had the best sleep in human history. The rest of your life is waiting for you on the other side of optimal rest. Start tonight. Your future self will thank you.